Kia ora everybody. So in May 2021, Chief Judge Hemi Taumanu came to the Tairawhiti Iwi Collective chairs and said we would like to introduce Te Ao Marama into the Gisborne District Court. What do you fellas reckon? Probably 12 to 18 months later, the same CEOs who apologised for being present today accepted the mantle from Tony Fisher, who will provide his conversation about that, to work with Ministry of Justice in partnership with iwi to see what it looks like in the space of iwi working in the Gisborne District Court. So this team of people who I'm about to introduce you to have been an integral part of that work. And Katerina Ngarimu, whose name, if you're synonymous with Ngāti Porou, would know that she's a good wharepunga person. Fortunately for her, she supports a team that wears black and white, so she gets to come and work for Tūranga Nui a Kiwa. So Katerina will just tell you her lens on this. She comes from a youth service background, and then we're fortunate enough also to have a person who married into the centre of the universe, who also came from a iwi space to help in the kaitaka wainga role in the Ministry of Justice. And the work is called Tangatarite, and it was the support of Hone's older brother who helped to provide the kupu for Tangatarite. And for those who are Puritans and understand the whakatauki, you'll notice around the traps that Tangatarite is two words, but for the purpose of this work, Tangatarite is combined into one kupu. So the team, kia ora.
Kia ora tāta katoa, ngā mihi mahana kia koutou. Hea te mea nui o te ao. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata. Kia ora, ko kōkai te maunga, ko wharepunga te awa, ko Ngāti Porou te iwi, ko horauta te waka, ko te aitanga mate te hapu, tēnā koutou katoa, ko Katerina Ngarimu toku ingoa. No paradise ahau, ai, kei wharepunga, ane, te tiro. This is my slideshow for today, it's just going to be our waha. Kia ora, so yes, my background is working with our youth that come through the youth justice and working at Tūranga Social Services with Joey Himaira as my manager. And that was where my mahi was to support our rangatahi coming through the court. But 2 years ago, I was offered a position as a kaimahi to work with the Tangatarite team. And the design had been completed, how the initiative would roll out, and that was 2 of us that was to be a part of the test and learn while navigating the court system, working alongside whānau. Starting with observations, this is key to test and learn, what it is like from whānau perspective when they are before the courts. What do they hear during their appearance, understanding the court demand, the language, the jargon, and ultimately what is required of whānau. But to support whānau, Tangatarite are guided by our purpose. Our purpose is we help whānau stay out of prison and minimise sentencing impact, interacting with whānau using the following values in our way of working with them. Having our purpose and value steps, whakawhanaungatanga, engagement, building trust and rapport, whānau voice, leading from their perspective, and collective understand and collective response. So then we keep our focus on the forefront of our mahi, understanding court obligations, but presenting challenges and barriers to why whānau are struggling to complete their plans. Addressing homelessness, which is at the top of our demand in Tairawhiti, and there is no traction with addressing matters in court when they are focused on where they're going to sleep at night. We worked with a young wahine who was a single mother who was sleeping in her car with her baby, and that was just couch surfing, but she was before the courts on theft charges. When we worked with her, We supported her to find accommodation. Once she had accommodation, we also found out she was featuring in family harm. So we addressed all the underlying issues, not what's at the surface. Once we had traction of her safe accommodation, she flourished. Right now she's out of the court system, she's in her own home, she is working. In her words, she is thriving. And that was because we could address the underlying. That was from whakawhanaunga, that was getting to know her. What was her struggles in life? What were her barriers, leading from whānau voice? So the challenges for us, for our team, was our information sharing. This was a major barrier coming into this mahi. The expectation was that we would be supporting whānau, but we were not giving any relevant information around the charges, around the history, around summary of facts. Examples, we were in court to support a young man who needed support to complete community hours. He had been breaching his conditions. But we later learnt through whakawhanaunga that he had extensive family harm. He had an alcohol addiction and was looking at prison time from his new charges. From working with him, we created a new plan, and that was for him to attend rehab. From attending rehab, he completed all the objectives of attendance there, and now he is back in the community, back with his whānau and working. But on his journey through rehab, we were also there to wrap around his partner and his children. No one was left alone, no one was isolated. But what we were able to do was bring it to the surface. It was the underlying issues, not the surface of why he was in court. With all the relevant information, we also learnt that to present it to the judge of how it is from the whānau perspective, the challenges they face, not just why they're in court. From his sentence though, from looking at prison time, he ended up being sentenced into intensive supervision. Now that we're in 2024, we receive all the information that we need from the courts. We actually work really close with our lawyers, we work really close with our prosecution, and we work close with anyone that is supporting whānau. But ultimately, when we're in court, we understand that the final say in court is up to the judge. Whatever's put forward, we need to put it the best that we can for the whānau that we're supporting. That way the judge makes a really informed decision. Where are we now? Tangatarite, we are working in partnership with Ngāti Porou. We have whakaora kōti that works alongside with us. We've established a very strong presence and continue to make positive changes with and for our whānau, presenting all relevant information within the courts. Our team has expanded from 2 members to 6, with whakaora kōti and whakaora kōti Ngāti Porou and Tangatarite working alongside one another. We all have the same introduction to mahi, that's observations, understanding the court, and what is the demand from whānau voice. Everything we lead forward, pushing forward, is around whānau voice. As I've grown, I've now stepped into the role of the manager, supporting both Tangatarite and whakaora kōti in court. Although we come from two different iwi, when we're present in court, we are known as iwi. We are not from different perspectives. We push forward as one. At the moment, we are now sitting also in Rangatahi Court. We're testing and learning as we are progressing forward there, so they have the same opportunity. We have this initiative here for our adults, but what about our babies that are coming through? That is where we sit in Rangatahi Court, and we are also pushing to be sitting in family court. So everyone has the same, and then it's consistency through the mahi of court. We work very closely with our systems improvement team. They support our team with our barriers, our challenges. There's a big focus when you're working with a whānau, people like to keep it isolated. No one likes to share information because they think it's a target on their mahi. But what they're forgetting is why they're there. We're there for whānau. We push forward for whānau. We advocate for whānau. We push forward for the way of working, our tairāwhiti way of working. We promote that, we promote everything to do with whānau. Anyway, nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. Any questions? Ka pai, thank you.
Tēnei te mihi kia koutou i tēnei wā, ko Reihana tēnā tōku ingo, huri au no Ngāti Maniapoto no Ngāti Rangi hoki. E noho ana au ki Manatuki, apparently it's the paradise of the earth, according to my wife. And I was the kaitaka wainga for the Ministry of Justice. My role with Tangatarite and Whakaora Kōti was pretty much I was the manaki and the whanaungatanga that was required within the court space, and that was not only to Tangatarite but also to our whānau coming through into our doors. And if I suppose you look at a picture as like our whānau, some of them they had never been to court before. They've got to go with these fellows that have got these big vests on, and they've got to go through these machines, they've got to get all this stuff put out of their pockets and then walk through, and then they go, where do I go to now? Then we put them in front of a court, and some of them haven't seen a lawyer, they don't know what the process is. So it's about, and that's where I, alongside with Tangatarite and Whakaora Kōti, would actually go to our whānau individually and ask them, have they seen a lawyer, have they seen, and they go, oh no, but I've seen a solicitor. Oh, that's the same thing, mate. But it's just around their understanding, and some of them, there's instances where you ask them if they've seen a lawyer, and they go, yeah, I saw one 2 weeks ago. Have you seen one today? No. So, oh, well, just see the duty lawyer. And it's just those little things that our whānau become appreciative of. Otherwise, they could be sitting there all day, and I've seen it, they get hoha. And they end up taking off because their name's not called out, they don't know what to do. They're too whakamā to ask, and then they get a warrant to arrest because they didn't turn up in court. But, so when Tangatarite and Whakaora Kōti started, we had these courts for young adults, what they call the young adults list, which is the 18 to 24-year-olds, or 25, come into court, and that Tairāwhiti, we're the only ones that have a different court setup. Although our judge will still sit at the up on the bench, we have what we call a horseshoe set up inside the court, inside the main courtroom. And that we have our iwi support, Tangatarite and our other external agencies sitting there, along with prosecutions and probation and the lawyers. The difference here is that the whānau can bring, our whānau that are coming through the court can bring their whānau support and also their support agencies into the body of the court, and the judge will mihi to them, get everybody around that table to introduce themselves, and then the judge will actually ask them to introduce the whānau to introduce themselves, which is not available in every court. So that's part of this te ao Marama that we're talking about, and Tony Fisher will go into that a lot deeper. Kat mentioned the Rangatahi Court. We also have the Family Harm Interventions Court, which runs alongside, which comes in with the whangai ngā pā harakeke. Eventually, if they're going through the systems, they end up within the court system. That's usually the court that they go into, which deals specifically with family harm interventions. And the work that our Tangatarite and all our agencies, or all the agencies do, is by an interventions plan. So the interventions plan will identify the needs of the individual, not only just to address the offending, but also to address any other issues they may have. They're not on a benefit, they've got no licence, that type of, just the immediate needs, which is where our support agencies come in and guide them through that plan as well. That plan is agreed to by the individual, by the lawyer, by the prosecutions, and ultimately by the judge. So the judge will make sure that the mahi that's being done, or the needs that are being met by that plan, actually suit the offending. And if we get a great outcome, like our ultimate outcome, Tangatarite's ultimate outcome is a discharge without conviction. So basically it didn't happen. But they have to go through this plan, complete the plan. Agencies report back on it, and they say, "Yep, they were this really great judge and did all this mahi." So the judge will then decide whether she will grant or not the Section 106, they call it, discharge without conviction. The judge for Tangatarite and Whakaora Kōti and all their agencies, the kaitaka wainga was, I suppose, the conduit or the access that they could get directly with the judge was through the kaitaka wainga position. And why do they need to access the judge? Well, if we've got programs that are being introduced or anything like that, they will come and tell me. I'll go tell the judge. Then we'll get them in there, get the providers to give a quick kōrero to the judge. The other things, I'm just looking at my notes because I can't see. I haven't got my glasses on. What else? Pretty much, that's pretty much all the mahi. Oh, actually, the other thing that kaitaka wainga does, or did, is courtless. Like they say, they had no. Katerina mentioned they had no information to start off with about the, when their whānau were appearing in court. So, that it's providing those courtless. When our whānau are on bail, they get bail conditions. Not having access, our whānau always lose their pieces of paper, so the ability to come to the kaitaka wainga and ask for those bail conditions, that was something else that we did for our service providers in the court. And it was really, it's all about that. Everybody talked about it that's previously presented is around that manaki and that whanangatanga. Pretty much that's what the kaitaka wainga position did, alongside our not only Tangatarite and Whakaora Kōti, but all our service agencies. Kia ora. Is there any questions? Kia ora.
I've only got 2 slides, and I'll do that at the end. Hoi anō, tuatahi karere atu ngā mihi no tōku maunga mauao, no tōku moana a tauranga, no oku iwi a Ngāti Rangi nui, no tōku hapu a ngai tūkairangi ki a koutou, o te whenua nei, ki a koutou o te tai rāwhiti, ano hoki ki a koutou ngā maunga ngā awa, ngā karangaranga maha i Wainganui i a tātou i te rānei. Kia ora no tātou. I'm always conscious that you've got a whole lot of Māori presenting and you've got a limited time. 85% of the time usually gets taken up with the mihi. So, hoi anō, he poto te mihi nei, engari he nui te mihi tēnei kia tātou. Tony Fisher, I'm with the Ministry of Justice, and I actually asked to go last because I thought it was important that Katerina talks about the Tangatarite service first, and the Ministry's role is in the background, to be honest. But I just thought I'd start with picking up from where when Moira commented that in May 2021, Chief Judge Hemi Taumanu came to Tai Rāwhiti and spoke to the iwi and the collective of iwi here about his Te Marama vision and his hope that you would pick that vision up. And I hope he's tuning in, because I'm going to tell this little story that he came back and he said, geez, it's a bit disconcerting when your own iwi get up and do the haka in front of you when you're trying to put this kaupapa, and they basically, in the first instance, are telling you to haka off. But that was the start of our journey with TROTAK and with Tangatarite. And shortly after, not long after that, I came over to Gisborne with a couple of members of my team and met with Moira and a couple of members of her team. And we talked about, we didn't talk specifically about Te Marama, but we talked about one part of it. And one part of the Te Marama vision is the Chief District Court Judge's vision for how the district court might transform itself and might change to improve the way that it operates and it meets the needs of the communities and the people that go through it. So those are my words. And there are a number of elements that comprise how we think that comprise how we achieve the Te Ao Marama vision ki whakatūtuki te wawata o tō tātou kai whakawā matua. One of those, and a really significant element in my view, is bringing communities into the court and connecting the court with the communities. And in the Māori sense, in the Māori world, and for me that was a big part of it, is connecting with whānau, hapu, iwi and kaupapa Māori organisations. So back to our initial meeting with Moira and the team, and an important bit that I forgot to, that I wanted to talk about right now, is that the earlier presentations have been focused on the system and how you navigate the system, and it really resonates with me, and it resonates with us who work in the system, and the that family violence, family harm, whānau journey system diagram. When you think of the justice system, that's a piece of cake, that one. And the justice system is a collective of a microcosm of individual justice sector agency systems, one after the other. So you have police and their system, you have the courts and our system, you have corrections and their system, and the challenge that our people have, or not just our people, that people have, is that you enter the system, you've got to get your way through that, and then you're into another system, and you've got to get your way through that, and you get into another system, and you've got to get your way out. And the word system is actually really significant because for courts, and coming back to Judge Taumanu's vision, what we tend to do is when we work in the system is to think about the system. I'm generalising, but I think you're going to get the point that I'm making. And therefore we focus on what are the improvements that we need to make in the system, and how do we make the system work better for the sake of the system, and we tend to forget about the people that the system is supposed to be there to serve. So included in the language about Te Ao Marama and the court system is humanising the court, the system, humanising the experience, or putting people at the centre of the court system. So the other bad habit that we have in the justice system, not just the court system, in the justice system, is that we tend to identify and we tend to think, we know how to fix this. We, inside the system, we know how to fix this, and we know how to fix this part of the system. And when you think about the presentations that we've had today, it's a real challenge. So here we have Te Ao Marama vision, bringing the expertise and the power and the support of communities into the courtroom. How do we do that? Generally what we would do in the system just is, we know the answer, we're going to tinker with this bit here. So we decided that we weren't going to do that, and this is a new journey for us, by the way. We're not experts in this by any stretch of the imagination. So we met with Moira and the team, and we talked about the problems. We talked about the challenges that, from TROTAK's perspective, that whānau have in interacting and dealing in the court system, and we talked on our side about the challenges that the judges and the people in the system have in terms of running the system. And during those discussions, Moira, I'm sure I could see you looking across the table at me saying, Tony's going to pull out and here's the answer. So we had those general discussions, and to summarise it all, I said to Moira So and the team, so if we asked you to develop or design or identify an intervention or something that would address the issues that you say that whānau are experiencing through the court system, what would it look like? So would you go away and do that? And to cut a long story short, they devised the Tangatarite service. I do want to mention about the Ministry of Justice. It was a really hard thing for us to do, to stand back and let the community let Moira, let a community organisation, you go off and design the system. So they did that, and then we put a lens across and said, okay, now this is what we need from that system, from your service. We need this from the service. It wasn't we need. So we didn't start with the service. We didn't start with our needs. We said you develop the intervention, the service, and then we'll tell you what it is that we need, and then we work out how we get that out. Now, what was the objective of all of that? A part of the primary objective was, as I said before, to bring the power and the understanding of communities into court, but also, and Katerina gave a couple of examples of the circumstances of people that have used the Tangatarite service, to get that information, all of that background information, in front of the judge, so that the judge says, so here are all the factors that are impacting on this person that's appearing before me. Now I understand this, and here's what is going to be done. Here's the support that can be provided by the Tangatarite service, and so I've got more information about the person appearing in front of me than I would otherwise have had. And our view was that with that, armed with that information and with that service, you would get a more appropriate sentencing outcome. That's court's jargon, but we would get a more appropriate outcome for the sentence that was going to be passed by the judge, whether that's a discharge or an alternative sentence. When TROTAK did the work, I was going to say when we did the work, well, actually when they did the work, we on our side had identified what we thought some of the outcomes were going to be. Well, actually we were confident what the outcomes were going to be. The first outcome that we identified was that there would be a reduction in sentences of imprisonment. Second outcome that we identified was that there would be a reduction in recidivism, repeat offending, through the support that this service provides. And a third and broader outcome that we had said would accrue would be that there would be an increase there would be an improvement in justice and well-being outcomes. That's pretty broad for whānau who are supported through this service. So, the Tangatarite is operating in Gisborne. We've got a Kaitaia Te Hiku equivalent, their own service, which they call Tūtea Niwa, which they've designed, that's operating in Kaitaia, and in Kaikohe, a service, their service that they designed is called Te Mana o Ngā Puhi ko Whaorau Te Marama. So the service has been operating. What's happened? What are some of the things that we can point to from our side of the fence, if you like? Are we achieving, from a court's perspective and a justice outcomes perspective, are we on track to achieving what we said to government we would achieve? So first of all, if you put the first slide up, so we're operating in three locations, and I just took one of my staff took these numbers from the reports that TROTAK sends through to us, 304 participants, individuals, have been have received support through the Tangatarite service. Now that's not the total number, those are the people who went through the courts, appearing before the courts, and who picked the service up. And there's another set of numbers behind that, because for every person, they've got a whānau, and the Tangatarite service extends into those whānau. There are 191 support plans developed for those participants. There might have been a larger number of plans for wider whānau members. There were almost 500 reports presented to the court, to the judge. So remember I talked about the judge getting information about the people that were appearing before them. There are over 600 whānau hui, 634 whānau hui held, and 230 connections into other services. Now that's just a really high look. I'll just grab this number for you. And I could talk about them a bit more. I won't. But 300 individuals, and if you think about the whānau that are behind that individual, have been supported through the Tangatarite service. I've just got a couple of minutes to go. Are we achieving what we said? So this is the activity, and then there's a lot more rich work that some of which Katerina described behind those numbers. So I said that one of the outcomes that we had identified and we said to government would occur as a result of this type of support being provided to people through the court system is a reduction in sentences of imprisonment. So if we just put the next slide up. We've done an analysis of sentencing outcomes. So what the sentencing outcome is, what was the sentence that was passed, and our data people have compared the people who went through the service, who were supported by Tangatarite, the service, and used a group, same numbers, through the same courts, with the same set of charges, and compared the two. And what it shows is that people who received the Tangatarite service, there was just under 20%, about 17 to 18% fewer people sentenced to imprisonment, and an increase in community-based sentencing. So the key thing there, although we said fewer people going to prison, which is what's happening, there's the sentence outcome is that you get a sentence that's more appropriate. So they might have got a sentence discharge, or they might have got a community-based sentence. So the indications are really, really positive about the power of the Tangatarite service and what it's achieving. We've got another, this is like breaking news and it's hot off the press. We've also done we commissioned a group called Impact Lab to do a social return on investment study, and they used TROTAK help generously provided their time and effort to get data out of their system and to provide it to Impact Lab. So we wanted to find out what is the social return on investment, so for in terms of a benefit that this service is providing. Now I can't provide you with the detail because it's hot off the press. We've got to sort of work out how we present this information to ministers. But what it shows is that for every dollar that's invested in this type of intervention and service, there is a social return that's many times higher. So it's the I'm trying not to tell you what the figure is because we haven't told the minister yet. And but it's what I can tell you is that Impact Lab have said to us this is the highest social return on investment figure that they have seen from any justice intervention, and it really is significant. So that's a pat on the back for Tangatarite and the service, but it's also an affirmation about the power of investing in communities and community responses. Hoi anō, tēnā tātou katoa.